All right, we're going to take you now to Governor Bill Lee here in Memphis, speaking for the first time since announcing the National Guard will be deployed here. Take you there now.
Here. There we go. Just stack it right here.
Yeah, we'll stack them up.
Yep. Everybody ready? Thank you all for being here this morning. We gathered together earlier today, this group of local and state and federal officials to discuss the next steps for the Memphis Safe Task Force and to talk about successful efforts that have already been underway. And part of the goal today is just to begin a regular cadence of updating Memphians on this Safe Task Force as it proceeds in the weeks and months ahead. But before I get into the operational details, I just want to say, you know, Memphis is a world-class city. And before us, we have a generational opportunity to make Memphis a safe city. I love Memphis. I have known Memphis my whole life. My grandparents lived here. My mom was born and raised here. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles. I spent part of my summers in this great city. And I care deeply about the people of Memphis and the city of Memphis. And so do these people that are standing up here behind me and beside me. This is a collaborative group of men and women, leaders, who believe that, in fact, we have a generational opportunity to make this city a safe city once again. We want every Memphian to feel safe as they enjoy all that this great city has to offer. And we're not going to let anything hold us back from allowing this city to be all that it can be. The story of crime in Memphis is about to be a story of the past, and that's what we need it to be. That's what this effort is about, and that's what we will be embarking on in the next days. A lot of work has gone into making this possible. A lot of work has already been done. As you know, there was months ago, we began the process of engaging with resources, federal resources. The U.S. Marshal Service was on the ground here months ago. The FBI has been operating under Operation Viper. Hundreds of arrests were made in that operation, and now this will continue with the Memphis Safe Task Force. I'd like to say that I'm grateful for the men and women standing behind me and the work that's already been done and the collaborative work that's been done. Mayor Young and I meet every month, whether it's in person or virtually. We meet every month and have for the last month since he came into office. We talk about the things that are happening positively in Memphis, and we talk about the challenges that are happening in Memphis, including crime, and how it is that we can work together to solve that. The mayor's commitment to tackling crime in this city is very clear, and it has been since the day he got into office. And this step that we are taking together is a continuation of that commitment to solving the crime problem in this city. For 7 years now, our administration has worked together with locals to commit resources to lowering the crime rate and to increasing public safety in the city of Memphis. Magnifying the highway patrol presence significantly, investments in funds and grant programs throughout the 7 years. I'm announcing today that we will be providing an additional $100 million in grant funds toward public safety initiatives in the state of Tennessee, in the city of Memphis, from the state. It's an effort to combine what we're doing with this task force with additional resources from the state to magnify the effectiveness of this. And now we have new partnerships that are at the federal level that have created this generational opportunity that I spoke to earlier. President Trump understands that cities like Memphis need federal resources. He understands what the city needs and has committed those resources to us. And I want to thank the president for the ability that we have today to use those federal resources to fight crime in our city. I want to thank President Trump. I want to thank Attorney General Pam Bondi. I want to thank Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. I want to thank FBI Director Kash Patel. Each one of these people. I want to thank U.S. Marshal Director Gadi Serralta, the DEA Director Terry Cole. Each one of these men and women have worked together with us in the planning stages of this operation so that we can have a safe Memphis again. As I said, planning's been underway for months. Specific planning for this task force has come together in particular in the last several weeks, and we will begin operations for the Memphis Safe Task Force next week. Personnel from 13 agencies will be on the ground in Memphis next week. It will begin a phased operational approach. This will occur in phases. It'll happen over the next weeks and months, and most importantly, this will be a sustained effort. When I spoke with the president in the Oval Office last week, I reiterated to him and to the folks that are a part of the federal resources here that what matters to us most is that this is a sustained effort, that this creates a long-term strategy for Memphis, for the city to be safe in the long run. The goal is lasting safety, and the mission will be sustained. I want to speak briefly about the agencies that are represented and the different roles that they're going to play, because what's important to know is this is a multi-agency effort. This is a multi-leveled effort of agencies working together. The U.S. Marshal Service will chair this operation and this task force. We're grateful to have their local leadership here today. Tyrese Miller is the U.S. Marshal for the West Tennessee region, and the U.S. Marshal Service will head this effort up. The FBI, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms departments of the federal government, those law enforcement officials will be on the ground in Memphis next week to begin the collaboration with local law enforcement, Memphis Police Department, Shelby County Sheriff's Office, and the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Speaking of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, we have over 300 troopers that will now be assigned to this region. That will ensure that at any one time we have 100 Highway Patrol officers on the ground. That is a significant increase in the presence of Highway Patrol in Shelby County for this operation. Department of Safety Commissioner Jeff Long is here, Colonel Matt Perry, Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Johnson with the Tennessee Highway Patrol. The Highway Patrol will play a major role in making sure that there is support as well for Memphis Police Department and Shelby County Sheriff's Department. The Tennessee National Guard, deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service, the National Guard will play a critical support role to local law enforcement here in Memphis. These are guardsmen and women who are Tennesseans, who will be a part of displaying the volunteer spirit and stepping up and serving their neighbors here in Shelby County as a part of this effort. They will serve as a force multiplier to the Memphis Police Department. Their support role will be important to make sure that the efforts necessary by the police department and the sheriff's department are maintained. They'll work in tandem with law enforcement officers, and I want to thank Major General Warner Ross, Adjutant General for Tennessee National Guard, for being here as well. Key to this effort is the mayor and the police chief. These are two individuals that I've worked with for a long time in efforts to make sure that this city is safe. I am grateful for their collaborative work here today. It's very important that we all understand the goal and that we work together to accomplish that. So I want to give each of them an opportunity to say a few words. Mayor?
All right. Thank you, Governor. Thank you all for being here today, and thank you, Governor, for pulling together this convening and this dialogue. It's much needed. I know that there are a lot of questions in our community. There's a lot of feelings, passionate emotions, whether you're for it or against it. But as the leader of our city, my goal is to make sure that as resources come into our community, we find ways to use them effectively and for the benefit of the residents of our great city. Memphis is a city that I love, been here all my life, and I want to see Memphis succeed. And I will say that success is the only option. That's one of the things we talked about in our meeting just prior to this. We have 3 goals that we have as a city as we go through this. Number 1, we want to make sure that we're building on the existing strategies that have demonstrated success. Number 2, we want to make sure that as we go through this process, we maintain the continuity of services to the public. And then number 3, we want to make sure that we find ways to sustain the gains that we will achieve long term. Those are the dialogues that we're going to continue to have. As this process begins, my commitment to the public is to make sure that we are communicative, that we're transparent, and we bring the public along every step of the way. I'll answer more questions as they come during the Q&A, but I'll turn it over to Chief Davis.
Good morning. My comments will be brief. I am grateful to the governor for bringing these individuals together to help discuss and clarify the roles of the various individuals that will be involved in this operation over the next several weeks. As many of you know, the Memphis Police Department and local law enforcement have asked for several years to have more federal law enforcement support to investigate and to help facilitate the prosecution of individuals that are committing the worst of the worst crimes in our city. And so today, we are pleased to know that there are 13 agencies that will be working with us over the next few weeks so that we can see a difference in our city. Our main concern is to make sure that Memphians know that the work that is done is on their behalf and that we will not deviate from the manner in which we do work every day in the city of Memphis. And so we're looking forward to this collaboration, we're looking forward to the results, and we're looking forward to forwarding the work and advancing the work that the men and women of the Memphis Police Department and local law enforcement have been doing for several months. So thank you.
We are in a unique place here in Memphis. Never before has a city in this country had access to the level of resources that is about to be made to the city of Memphis. There's no city in America that has access to the resources we're about to get. And that is very hopeful for me. And I see this team of professionals behind us that are willing to work together and make this city safe. It's exciting for me. We have to do this. We have to do it for the Memphis business community, small businesses and large employers. I talk to CEOs all the time who want to move to Memphis and who want to bring jobs and who want to bring opportunity. And we have to make it possible for those companies to feel good about making the moves here. And we have to do this for Memphis families. We have to do this for the people who live and work and worship and play and their children are on the streets. We have to do this for the people that live in Memphis. I recently heard from a lady whose son was killed on the street in Memphis. She's a mother in Memphis. And one of the things that she said, and I want to close with this before we take questions. She asked Memphians, she actually was going to put together a prayer meeting She asked Memphians to come together to pray for their city. We're about to embark on an effort that's going to require a tremendous amount of work. And one of the things that I would ask you to do is join her in asking the Lord to empower the work that's about to be done in the city, and that great favor would come on the city of Memphis as we embark on our efforts to make it the safe city of Memphis. Thank you, and we are happy to take questions.
Governor Lee,
Yes.
how will this differ from some of the already existing local, state, federal partnerships like the multi-agency gang unit? And what are the kind of the priorities going to be for these different groups of agencies?
I think the main way that this is different is that it is significantly magnified. The number of agencies, the level of expertise, the opportunity to access technology that's not been widely available to us. You know, the federal resources, the expertise that the federal resources have, whether it is the U.S. Marshal Service, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Department, the FBI, those are sophisticated law enforcement agencies who understand how the worst of criminals operate. And they understand how it is that we can identify those worst of the worst that are on the streets in Memphis and then allow law enforcement to move in there. So I think the biggest difference is the fact that we just are about to have a significant amount of resources, significantly more than we've ever had in this city, and that'll make a tremendous force multiplier.
Governor, how many personnel are we talking about here? And you said that the Guard will be deputized by the U.S. Marshal Service. How does that legally work? And will you be declaring a state of emergency to deputize?
I will not be declaring a state of emergency. This is a Title 32 operation that comes at the request of the federal government, authorized by me, for National Guard troops that are deputized in order to be able to operate under the operation of the U.S. Marshal Service. And the numbers of personnel, we don't know that yet. Part of the goal today is to just say, you need to know this is about to begin. The operation itself will develop as the need is understood on the ground. So while it begins next week, we don't know the numbers. Those will be determined by need. What was your other question?
The other question, I guess, is will they be armed, and will the Guard be making arrests here? Or you said support role.
Yeah. So the Guard will not be making arrests, and the Guard will not be armed except and unless the local law enforcement makes requests for that. So this is mission dependent, which means that when we begin this operation, we're going to understand a whole lot more about what's necessary out there. And information from the police department, for example, on what support they need will determine and drive whether or not a particular National Guardsman is armed. If that's what's necessary to support the Memphis Police Department, then that will be a decision that's made at the time. But a lot of this is going to be mission dependent. But the National Guard will be used as support. They'll not be making arrests.
Governor Lee, I know you said they're coming next week, but have you already officially signed an order to bring them here next week?
Well, there's not actually an official order to sign. There's a memorandum from the president that lays out this request. I have to authorize that, and that authorization was made. The Secretary of War provides an official letter that lays out how this will operate with the U.S. Marshal Service. There's not documentation signed by me, but the request has been made and authorized, and the effort will begin next week.
Governor Lee, how is the state ensuring that the National Guard's presence or any other agency's presence will not escalate tensions in already vulnerable neighborhoods, especially given Memphis' long history of strained police community?
I think the primary thing I'd say about that is the men and women standing behind me have begun working together. Well, we've been working together for a long time, but on this particular operation, began working together, recognizing that this has to be successful. There is no option for me other than the success of this operation. And the only way that that's going to be successful is if the community understands the right role of every one of these agencies. If the community understands that you address the National Guard, if the community can understand that the National Guard is here to support the Memphis Police Department and local law enforcement, they'll understand that when they see it on the ground. But there's an understanding and a commitment with the group here that has to happen, because this has to work. And I know we all believe very much that this is the moment in time that we have been given to collaboratively work together for the people of Memphis. And Memphians are going to see that as this unfolds. Yes.
In August, you sent National Guard troops to DC. You said at the time that you didn't see a need for National Guard in Memphis. What has changed in the last month that suddenly it's now part of the plan? And then Mayor Young and Chief, if you don't mind as well, I've heard some questions about the data that y'all have put out, that there's questions, I guess the crime rate is low, but I don't feel that. What would you say to those concerns?
So first of all, yes, we did support the effort in D.C., and we're happy to do that because we want to be a partner in fighting crime wherever we can be a partner. And, we started our first meetings with federal officials on how to address the crime in Memphis began in the spring. Met with Kash Patel and the director of the FBI and began to talk about what is the best strategy forward. At the time, and up until several weeks ago, that effort was going to be primarily driven by the FBI. And the U.S. Marshal Service had a preparatory role in that. And we created Operation Viper, and that was underway. It was never off the table that the National Guard would be used, but it wasn't the plan at the time that this would develop. But as we talked with the Trump administration, and it became evident to us that not only could we have the FBI resources, but the DEA, the ATF, the National Guard, all federally funded resources that could be directed to support local law enforcement in Memphis. That's when it became evident that this is exactly what needs to happen, because we know that if we have access to those resources, this problem can be solved. Now, it isn't going to be easy. It's going to be complicated. There will be a lot of things that we have to figure out over the next several weeks, but we have an opportunity to do something that has been long needed in the city, and the people standing here are committed to that.
And I'll speak to the point around data. We've had a lot of conversations locally around data and crime, and the facts are the facts. In 2024, we saw a 13% reduction in overall crime, a 19% reduction in violent crime, 29% reduction in murders, 37% reduction in car thefts, and in 2025, we're on par to have the same level of reductions, or if not more. But the reality is still the reality. Crime still exists. I never said crime was over. None of us have ever said that. In fact, what we say is that we're not taking victory laps. We know that we have a lot of work to do to get crime at a level where people really, really feel it. And we're still too far on far too many lists. I still get too many stories from mothers who have lost children. So the crime is unacceptable. And we're going to continue doing the work until we get it to where it needs to be.
Chief Davis or Mr. Miller, could you explain how the police department and the task force are going to operate together, and who's going to have overall command?
So we've had many conversations about what this collaboration looks like, but I believe that because today isn't the first day that we work with Marshall Miller on operations and how those operations should best serve our community, we plan to continue with that same level of command and control. The Memphis Police Department knows where the crimes are. We have the data, and we are the ones that will help to have discussions about how we address crimes in the various communities that we're looking at. And just to speak just a little bit about, how our community members are feeling, it's taken decades for us to be in a place that we are. We've had many things that have contributed to where we are. We are not taking victory laps, but we do know that some community members, some of our residents are feeling that things are shifting in Memphis. But we can't take the bar where we need it to be unless we get the federal resources that have been sort of absent, at least at the magnitude that it needs to be in our city. This operation is going to be one that will help us to put a dent. We are not eradicating, crime right now, but we are putting a dent, and we plan to put a dent. There are many individuals that are violent criminals that have been, at large for a long time, that have committed homicides in our community. Our community members want relief. They want to know that there is a concerted effort and a focus on violent crime and looking for those individuals who continue to commit crime in our city.
Governor Lee, when you say next week, are we talking Monday? And also, where are the troops going to be housed?
So there will be members of these 13 law enforcement agencies beginning Monday. I can't tell you who's coming Monday, who's coming Tuesday, how many they're coming. Part of that is because they will come to Memphis to begin collaboratively working together, and we'll see a ramp up of those resources over the next weeks.
Governor Lee, you have mentioned something about as far as what President Trump signed the memo, and then at some point you had authorizing that there's no documentation. Is there ever going to be any documentation, and how can we get access to that?
Well, the documentation is the memorandums as signed by the president, and there's and then the back and forth between the official recognition and declaration by the Secretary of War.
How do you see immigration enforcement playing a part in all of this? And also, you keep mentioning federal funding. Is part of this the idea that Memphis specifically will not be paying to house these agents, and this will be paid for by federal tax?
The federal agencies will fund their own operations. So the operation of that's true of the National Guard. What was your first question?
About how immigration
Oh.
enforcement might factor into
Yeah, so this is the effort of this task force is crime. It's to fight violent criminals, drug traffickers, smugglers. This is a violent crime and a crime eradication effort. Now, if one of those criminals happens to be someone here that's illegally in this country, then ICE will be involved in that. But this operation is a crime-fighting operation, and these are law enforcement operations that are coming together.
We have time for just a couple more in case anyone hasn't gotten a question.
Yeah, has
So
anybody
I think-
not asked?
Governor, I think you said we have to do this, it's impacting businesses. Business owners we've talked to said having guardsmen outside, their front door essentially, having the additional troopers, it's actually deterring people wanting to come to the city. What do you say to them about this is having an impact on the business?
Well, I will say that I do talk to CEOs frequently because I try to recruit companies into Memphis, and there are a lot of companies that want to come here, and they're concerned about the crime. So when I think about opportunity for Memphians and investment in this city and job creation in this city, I listen to those CEOs and I hear their concerns, and that's part of the effort here is to alleviate those concerns. The other thing that's going to happen over these months is that this press conference is the beginning of what we believe will be a cadence of transparency for the city of Memphis. People need to understand what it is that we're doing, how it's unfolding, what that looks like, and that will include feedback from, we will hear from business owners, we will hear from the citizenry, we will understand, certainly the locals will understand how this is working for them, and that feedback from business owners will be important for us to understand how this operation works. But I will say, the most important thing we can do for a business owner is take a criminal off the street that's in front of their business. We want Memphians to feel safe to go out and shop and enter businesses and go out to dinner at night and take their families to Grizzly games and feel good about it. We want people to go to Beale Street and feel comfortable with that and not have any concerns about what it's like to be out and about in this. That's when our businesses will thrive. That's when our families will thrive. That's when economic development will thrive in the city, and that's the goal.
Do we know how long, this is sort of a test run, so is there an estimated 90 days, how long will
Yeah.
this last?
Part of what we have said together, those of us that are working on this, is it will operate as long as it takes. This is an opportunity we have, and we are committed to making sure that it works. And we don't know how long it will take for that to work, but however long it takes. Yes.
Governor Lee, you said this will begin next week. How will the potential government shutdown affect these efforts?
It won't affect the efforts. Whatever gaps are necessary to make certain that the resources continue, those will happen, and it should not affect the efforts.
What's your
Governor,
final
Lee, talk
message?
about jail capacity real quick, how that's going to work.
Jail capacity is very important because we expect that there will be hundreds of arrests. And we're working right now and have been working for weeks to establish that availability of beds through federal prisons, state prisons, county jails in the region, adjacent states. There's a clear understanding that this is, that's an important component of that, and we have a plan for that, and we're working on it.
One more question, I guess. So much of this has been a show of force. Hundreds of people potentially rolling up here showing force. A lot of law enforcement is wiretaps and surveillance,
Yeah.
stuff like that. How much of this operation is going to be that versus pulling up on violent fugitives that have warrants out?
Yeah, I think it's really important you say that because, you talk about rolling up in force. What this is coming together in force. The presence is going to be one of collaboration. And in fact, the U.S. Marshal Service, the directors of that federally visited the Memphis Crime Center to understand the technologies available, to understand what technologies might be needed to enhance the operations here. So your point's really well taken. This is an ongoing effort that's going to pull together all resources of law enforcement, not just numbers of personnel. There's much more, and that's part of what the $100 million that the state will be committing will be for technology, for downtown public safety efforts. This is much more than just numbers of personnel. It is a collaboration of technology and efforts. Yes.
And what's your final words to me? This is a Memphis right now. What should they believe? Final message to them?
The final message is this is a remarkable, great southern city. It has a history and a legacy like no other city in the South. This is a city that Tennesseans recognize as crucial and important if Tennessee's going to lead the country in the ways that we believe that she should. This is a city that people who live here love. I've oftentimes said there's no one who loves a city like Memphians love their city. And we recognize that what's about to happen here is crucial for the future of this great city. For it to continue and advance and accelerate in transformation as one of the future great cities of America, this has to happen. We have to get a handle on this issue, and I'm incredibly hopeful that this is the beginning of a real transformation. And frankly, the truth is there's a lot of work that's been done. So this is not the start of a crime-fighting effort. This is the acceleration of a crime-fighting effort. My final word is that I believe that Memphis's greatest days are ahead of them, and this is a very important component and a part of that. Thank you all very much for doing this.
Look like this operation?
I think success looks like Memphis being a safe city, Memphis being a place where people have no concerns about going out with their family, about locating their business, about sending their children. When people recognize the city of Memphis as one of the safest places in America, that'll be success. Thank you all very much.
One day we get a chance
A lot to get to there. Thanks for watching. I'm Kevin McNamara. That was, of course, Governor Bill Lee speaking at the Tennessee Highway Patrol Office alongside Memphis Mayor Paul Young, as well as Police Chief C.J. Davis. Just a quick recap of some of the things he said. I took some notes during that. Again, planning's been underway for months, and 13 agencies, including the DEA, the FBI, the ATF, they'll be on the ground here in Memphis as soon as Monday and throughout the next few weeks. It's going to be a phased approach over weeks and months, a sustained effort with the goal of creating a long-term strategy for Memphis to be safe. It'll be headed up by the U.S. Marshal Service. Again, as I said, FBI, ATF, DEA, and more, along with about 300 Tennessee Highway Patrol troopers that'll be there, with about 100 officers at any one time there with the Highway Patrol. Seen as a force multiplier to MPD, with the governor saying the goal is to grow businesses and make people excited to live and work in this city again. And when asked what the difference was between this effort and previous, is the sheer magnitude, saying it's far greater than any here in the Bluff City before. More resources than we've ever had, was the quote from the governor. But there's no plans to declare a state of emergency at this time. And they don't yet know the exact numbers of personnel, as those operations will develop over time. Now, an important note there, that he was asked about the National Guard's ability to be armed or make arrests. And he says no to both of those questions, at least at the beginning. Again, the National Guard will not be armed, nor will they be making arrests, at least as first as they come in these initial weeks. But if it becomes necessary, then that may be an option. Another quote he gave that I noted, "This has to work, and this is the moment we have been given," was a quote from the governor there. But it's a belief that this crime problem in Memphis can be solved with this massive influx of federal agencies. And they'll continue getting feedback from businesses and locals as the operation unfolds. Again, another crucial element, they're arriving as soon as Monday, slowly phased up over the next few weeks. The governor did not commit to any time frame right now, so he says they'll be here as long as it takes, not saying that they'll be leaving in any sort of weeks or months. Said again, the quote was, "As long as it takes, they'll be here." Thanks for watching here on ABC 24. We'll bring you much more on this story throughout the day at 5 and 6 here at ABC 24. We'll take you back to your regular programming.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 24 Plus app everywhere you stream.